Hey guys, if you enjoyed the videos on this channel, be sure to check out my second channel as well for funny videos and highlights. The link will be in the description. Welcome back everyone to another top 10 interesting lore facts in World of Warcraft, part 3. Been quite a while since we did the last part to this series, so I thought it was about time to make another episode. With that being said though, let's go ahead and get right into the video with number 10. Varian was a great father to Anduin. He cared for his son very much, and for the most part, as stated by Anduin, he actually smothers him with too much attention and appears to be overprotective to the point of where Anduin becomes very annoyed. However, before he achieved balance between both his human side and his feral side that was due to his connection to Goldrin, sometimes Varian would not be able to control himself as well as he wanted to. In the novel Wolfheart, which takes place in the Cataclysm, Anduin stated that he wanted to travel with Velen and strengthen his connection to the light. But at this, Varian became outraged and even fearful. Hearing his son's words and seeing Anduin depart reminded him of how his wife, Tiffin, was no longer with him, and he couldn't bear to have his son abandon him as well. Immediately, he grabs Anduin's arm with such force that it nearly breaks it, but then he instantly regains control and apologizes for his outburst. Varian then states to his son that he is deeply sorry, and that he would never intentionally hurt him. And with a smile, Anduin replies, "I know." Before Anduin departs, however, Varian tries to hug him, but Anduin backs away. The last thing Varian sees before Anduin leaves is a hint of fear in Anduin's eyes. Fear that his father would have hurt him. Number 9. In the War of the Ancients, Hakar the Houndmaster dispatched a pack of fellhounds to track down and kill Malfurion. However, along the way, the hounds also discovered 3 more powerful beings: Ronin, Brach Cigar, and even Cenarius. These hounds, however, are much more powerful than any ordinary fellhound, and Cenarius himself states that they would be in the fight for their lives, for these hounds also took the life of another demigod in the past. Luckily for them, however, they are all powerful individuals who managed to cut down the fell beasts after an intense fight. Sometime after the battle, Hakar the Houndmaster reports back to Manaroth, who is overseeing the war effort in Zinajari, and Hakar tells the Pit Lord that the fellhounds were unable to kill their prey. Startled and a little uncertain about what he just had heard, Manaroth demanded Hakar to show him an image of those responsible for dispatching the fellhounds. One particular creature caught the Pit Lord's attention: Brach Cigar. Manaroth was so intrigued by Brach Cigar's ferocity in combat that he sought to learn more about the species. Thus, the first time that Manaroth ever had the interest of learning about the orcs and bending them to his will was 10,000 years ago during the War of the Ancients, with Brach Cigar being the first orc that ever caught his attention. Number 8. Around the time of the Burning Crusade, as many of you know, Illidan manages to capture Maiev Shadowsong, and the demons and Broken who warded over her tortured her day by day. There would be days where she wouldn't be fed, and she would starve or go thirsty, and other days where her captors spat on her and poked her with sharp sticks just for their own entertainment. There would also be other times where the Broken fed her food, but before giving it to her, they pissed on it right in front of her so that she would know that they urinated on it, but then ultimately she would have no choice and eat the food anyway. Illidan also made sure that the prisons which bound her were infused with spells that made it impossible for her to starve to death or completely dehydrate. So, for example, if she was denied water for 2 weeks, she would not die. The spells would make sure that she would live, but she would still feel the sensation of starving to death or being dehydrated until she actually drank or ate some food. Number 7. When the timelines became corrupted and altered due to the actions of the infinite dragonflight, Nostormu began sending in elite squads of 12 or more bronze dragons to scout out what the infinite dragonflight was doing and what their plans were. However, most of their groups never returned, or some of them returned with only 1 dragon. In one group, only a single survivor named Zirion returned to the bronze dragonflight, but Zirion was gravely injured and was in between states of consciousness and unconsciousness. When trying to mend his wounds, Nostormu discovered that it was his future self, Muruzan, who had so gravely wounded Zirion and murdered the rest of the dragons in Zirion's group. Filled with such anger at what his future self did, and yet also filled with regret for allowing this to happen, Nostormu held Zirion and stated that he was sorry and begged him to forgive him. When Zirion awoke, the first face he saw was Nostormu, and he instantly began sobbing and crying uncontrollably. With the last seconds of his life, he did not use his remaining strength to forgive the aspect, but instead, he used it to crawl as far away from Nostormu as he possibly could. All the meanwhile, his eyes were filled with fear and terror of Nostormu. Number 6. Galakrond was known as the father of dragons, but the true nature of Galakrond was not known to many. It was known mainly only to the dragon aspects. The reason why is because Galakrond was a huge threat to Azeroth after becoming stronger and stronger when he started devouring other proto-dragons. To prevent other dragons from following in his footsteps of basically devouring their own kind to become larger and stronger, the aspects lied to the other dragons, and instead of telling them the truth, they told them that Galakrond was the father of dragons, the first of their kind, and it was because of Galakrond and through him that the Titans created dragons from Galakrond himself. Number 5. We all know of the undead Scourge assault on Quel'Thalas. We know that obviously the Scourge did a number on a whole bunch of people in Warcraft 3, but it's still so shocking to see how big of an impact the undead army truly has had on the world and on so many characters. One of those characters whose family fell apart due to the Scourge was Varisa. Not only did her sister become one of the most notable undead characters in Warcraft history, but her grandfather was forced to cut down his own son, her uncle, after he had been risen into undeath. From her grandfather, she also was told of how her younger brother was killed in an undead ambush, and the leader of that ambush was their eldest brother who had been risen into undeath. That eldest brother soon died a second time when the survivors managed to kill him. Not only is the Scourge just a formidable foe, but truly they tear apart families and even pin them against each other, as we can see with the Windrunner family. And yes, before you guys say anything, apparently the Windrunner sisters did have two brothers, an eldest brother and a younger one, as stated in the first War of the Ancients novel. However, they are unnamed, so that's probably why not many people know it. Number 4. The Night Elves truly have changed over time. Whereas now for the most part they are tolerant and accepting, they used to be incredibly racist, seeing all those who were not Night Elves as barely a step above vermin. In the War of the Ancients, Brach Cigar accompanies Tyrande to the Temple of Elune. However, upon entering, the guards stop Brach Cigar and state that a creature such as Brach Cigar would be unfit to enter such a holy ground. Tyrande, however, instantly snaps at them and states that all of Elune's children have the same rights regardless of race. And a little thing to note, guys, once Tyrande starts ranting, she usually always gets her way. Speechless and seeing the truth in her words, the guards let Brach Cigar pass. Number 3. No one liked Gallywix, not a single person. According to Bane Bloodhoof, not even the goblins liked him. Whenever war was coming and warriors would worry about good soldiers and friends dying, Gallywix would prepare to capitalize on the opportunity and see how the war would make his wallet fatter. When Calantir Bloodblade, Frandus Farley, and Trade Prince Gallywix arrived in Ratchet with supplies and troops preparing to aid Garrosh's campaign on the siege of Northwatch and Theramore, Gallywix immediately tried to hug Garrosh. But at this, Garrosh became disgusted and immediately turned to Calantir to try to talk to her in an effort to avoid physical contact with Gallywix. Number 2. Before the bombing of Theramore, Calic asked Jaina why she had no interest in joining the Kirin Tor. Her answer was that after Arthas betrayed their people, it had changed everything. The man she wanted to marry had killed her peers, her friends, and her beloved teacher. Although the order was restored, she did not want to be around it. She could not be around it. Not only had she changed, but the order itself had changed as well. And she did not want to be around an environment which would trigger the presence of the ghosts of the past. However, after the bombing of Theramore, her thoughts on the matters would change and she would join the Kirin Tor. Number 1. In the novel Shadows of the Horde, Voljin once thinks to himself that there are many things different between both he and Garrosh, and one thing that truly sets them apart is how they view soldiers. Voljin can recognize the name and face of many soldiers, regardless of rank or importance, while Garrosh would only assess his soldiers for their strength and power. He would only make note of them for how useful they would be in making sure that his will and power would be projected onto others. 5 soldiers or 5,000. To Garrosh, they were all expendable. To Voljin, however, they were not. And they would never be. Even in the Echo Isles, when the trolls would be practicing their combat skills, he would go around and try to remember their names or praise them for their increasing skill in combat. This was because to Voljin, they were all valued in his eyes. When war came, He would not think of them just as a pile of bodies and a batch of numbers ready to be tossed into battle. He would think of them as family. And this was what he thought of his troops as he sieged Orgrimmar. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos like this in the future. And until next time, I will see you all later.